So John is here, and Dave is here, and Julie is here, and Carol is here for Denise, and Gary is here, and Keith is here, and I am here, and Austin's here, so it's a pretty good turnout. So we have our agenda. We have the approval of the minutes of the July 25th meeting. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Keith. Is anybody willing to do a second? Is anybody here who was there?
Yeah, you weren't here.
No, I wasn't there.
I don't know what it'd be worth, but so.
Okay, so Julie will second. Thank you, Julie. So discussion. Give it a second. I see people doing a quick read, so I'll give it a second.
Well, it looks like, I wasn't here, but it looks like you worked on the different ideas for the fund, the special fund that you might have.
Right, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later.
Okay, great.
Is that the critical need item?
Yeah, the critical needs.
Critical needs. Right.
Critical needs items, yes. Hey Dan, how are you, sir?
I am fine. How are you?
Good. Okay, so hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Carol, Gary, Dave wasn't here, and John wasn't here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so public comment. Any member of the Dan public comment group who would like to comment?
I don't have any comments.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so it's been a busy time, and in your packets is two documents, both of which will be up on our Business and College Services website this afternoon or tomorrow morning. They were part of the board packet last night for the Board of Trustees. And basically what you have is a narrative. Hey, how are you, Eduardo? How are you, sir? A narrative that, let me grab a packet.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and get one for Dan too, if you would, please. Thank you. It's a narrative that provides a 2013-14 budget update as of August 21st. And the way this thing is organized, and as I said, we kind of don't want to bury the lead. We are in pretty good financial condition, and then we get into that, we speak to that. The picture became much clearer on August 6th when we attended a Chancellor's budget workshop. And what I did is I took all of my notes and everything from the workshop, and I first provided a state outlook in terms of where things are in the state, and you can just take a second to kind of go through those bullets, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'll kind of pick up some highlights if I can. For example, the governor continues to take the position that 2013 revenues are going to be less than people expect them to be. The Legislative Analyst's Office continues to take the position that there will be at least $2.8 billion more than what the governor's office projects it would be. And I think the latest I heard is now they're talking about $3 billion more. So unless something dramatically changes, it's very likely that there will be at least $3 billion more in the state of California for whatever purposes the governor and the legislature deems appropriate. The budget itself for the state is based upon the governor's more conservative forecast. Theoretically, he's saying he wants to put money away for a rainy day, the boom or bust aspects of how our state has budgeted. Generally speaking, it's going to be a good year. Prop 30 provides stability at least through 2017-18. For the first time, the state has a legitimately balanced budget, as opposed to some sort of hocus-pocus chess game kind of a thing. The state is buying down its debt, therefore it's borrowing. The cost of borrowing will go down, which is a good thing. These talk about the different revenue projections at different points in time. everybody agrees that the governor has understated budgets, or understated revenues. I talked about the $3 billion. The budget does not rely on the infusion of any federal funds. In order to balance the budget. And it's not based on any unrealistic operational efficiencies in state programs. In other words, barring, basically fund transfers and all this kind of stuff. So for the first time in many years, it's a very, operationally speaking, it's a very solid, real budget. And there's no hocus pocus kind of stuff. Now, Prop 98 is really the interesting thing on a lot of levels. First of all, Prop 98 sets the minimum level of funding for K-12, and K-12 has the further benefit of having constitutional guarantees, which basically maintains them whole, if you will, through continuous appropriations. Unfortunately, the community colleges do not share in that continuous appropriation model, so the state can be much more circumspect about how it funds the community college system, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in a second. In 13-14, there'll be $55.3 billion of Prop 98 dollars, which is actually less than last year because of the way that the formulas compute themselves. And it really had to do with the lower general fund revenue forecast that was in the governor's May revision. So the governor kind of set us up for that. The good news, if you turn to the top of the next page, is Prop 98 is on the upswing in a very significant way through 16-17. So more money will be coming to K-12 and community colleges in the next 5 years, and perhaps significantly more money. So how does that state budget situation impact the community colleges? Well, as we've talked about before, we've got access. No one likes to use the word growth anymore. The Chancellor Harris, and Dr. Rocha, and several CEOs of other community colleges are using the word access. So we're not talking growth, we're talking access money. So there's a 1.63% of that, the COLA that we've talked about in the past, the increases in the various categoricals, matriculation, as we've talked about before, is now known as Student Success and Support. That has an additional $50 million. The rest of those that you see. There's been a lot of progress made towards paying down the deferrals, but there's still $590+ million owed by virtue of deferrals, and we'll talk more about that later. There's $30 million for deferred maintenance and instructional equipment. The deferred maintenance has a 1-to-1 matching requirement, and the instructional equipment has a 1-to-3 matching requirement, which is good. So for every dollar we put in, the state will provide $3 in return, up to a certain cap, and you'll see that a little bit in a few minutes. Prop 39, the energy efficiency dollars, that will guarantee $880,000 to PCC for the next 5 years if we fill out all the paperwork right and do things correctly. We'll talk about that later. Online education initiative, that is taking on significant steam, and there's $17 million to sort of get that off the ground. Talked about the adult education before, so you know what that's about. We will be participating very likely with Pasadena Unified School District and the El Monte Union High School District, which are the two major adult ed providers that we work with, the college works with. Just by way of a quick aside, there's only about 10 or 12 community college districts out of 72 that are in the adult education business. We happen to be one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Say that number again?
10 to 12 of our 72 community college districts that are in the adult education business.
That seems upside down.
Yeah, it's been a K-12 thing for decades, and they're big players too. Like San Diego, Rancho Santiago is another giant one. San Francisco is another giant one, and LA doesn't have one, for example, and we're probably an average size, smaller to average size adult ed program, but we can.
It's bitter. My dad works in the K-12 system, and it's a bitter battle in other parts of California.
They want it or they don't want it?
K-12 wants to keep, some K-12 districts want to keep it and some don't, because people, I mean, they've been housed there. It's just like any other major change, right? Like, we've been doing this, we're focused on it, this is our profession, so it's
Yeah.
depending on where you are in the state, can be a bitter issue.
But we definitely are going to be participating in terms of the working. These are 2-year planning grants. It's 2 years, funding available 2 years to plan. And then there's, last number I heard was 300 million plus that will be available for adult education beginning either next year or the year after. I don't recall right now, but so we'll see. Okay, community college concerns. We're finally reinvesting in education thanks to Prop 30 and an improving economy, but we have to remember that Prop 30 is temporary. The income tax part of it, the sales tax part of it sunsets in 2016, and the income tax sunsets in 2018. Will it be extended? Already significant discussions are taking place.
What about putting something on the ballot?
Yes, but in truth, the real answer for community colleges is one of two things. The nirvana would be the continuous appropriation, okay? There's a lot of people who don't think that's going to happen for a variety of reasons,
Right.
but that's the target. The next big thing is a super cola. Is in order to try to get us caught up, and there'll be something more in here in a second, super colas for the next several years to try to get us caught up to that. We're down, well, I'll read this in a second here, I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right, now, but this is a big thing. Apportionment is getting more complicated. In 2008-9, 2/3 of the apportionment was general fund approved in the budget, easy. Now it's down to 1/3. And now the 2/3 is basically funded through Educational Protection Account, Redevelopment Agency, and these are things that result in all kinds of timing delays, cash flow issues, all kinds of challenges associated with that. So again, what the bottom line of that is there's very little stability, whereas before there was significant stability. Now it's much reduced.
Are you going to, when we talk about apportionment, we look at things like basic skills or other kinds of particularly earmarked state funds, is that going into this, or are you going to get to that later on somewhere?
We got to that a little bit before,
Okay.
Whereas we got the categorical money here
Okay.
on page 3.
All right.
And there's that student success and support funding, of which this is $50 million of new money,
Okay.
but it's been funded back to $99 million.
Okay.
So we should all welcome our new associate student president, Jordan Orozco.
Hi,
Welcome.
sorry.
Yay.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yay, and we're very sorry.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I will be too.
However, to a little further answer your question, Mel, basic skills is funded by both general apportionment
Right.
as well as these categorical.
funds.
Yeah, yeah, it's both. Okay, so lack of continuous appropriation is an increasing problem. Okay, so how does this all impact us? So the good news is there isn't a threat of a trigger reductions as there has been in the past. So it's not like we're going to get a phone call in February and says, guess what, we're going to hold back, $20 million of your appropriation or what have you. That's not going to happen this year. The district will see state and local revenue increases of approximately 5%. When you add it all up, it's about $5.9 million. But $3.5 million of that amount is an RDA IOU from 1213, Redevelopment Agency IOU from 1213. I was in a conference call this morning. I've been in several calls and meetings about the Redevelopment Agency money, and the bottom line to that is that there are people who think that we could get that money as early as November, and people think that we could get that money in January, February. And I'll just very briefly tell you that the problem is that the community colleges have reported this amount of money has been returned to us from the counties as a result of the RDA payments, and the Department of Finance is told this amount of money was returned to us. So the gap is literally it's about $97 million. So there's an argument over whether or not that $97 million is really due the system or not. Our percentage of that is roughly $4.6 million. I'll talk about that in a minute. The question really is, are we going to get all that $4.6 million? Are we going to get 90 cents on the dollar? What are we going to get? But almost more importantly, when are we going to get it? The budget that we've developed includes that RDA money, but there are certain things that we will not do until we know for certain that it will be in. But at the moment, it's a 98% certainty we're going to get the money. It's just a question of when. And if we're going to get 100 cents on the dollar, or are we going to get 90 cents on the dollar as we negotiate with, the system negotiates with the Department of Finance. Then I can get into a lot more detail, but I won't because your eyes are already rolling back of your heads. Okay, so moving on then to item number 3. That's what I just kind of talked about, which is about the RDA money, how much it is, what we expect to get, and the likely deferral of the $3.5 million until we actually have the money in the bank. I will go on to again report to everybody that deferrals are not over. I mentioned that $4 billion issue in the past. In 12-13, we were deferred $21 million. In 13-14, there will not be intra-year deferral scheduled for 13-14, which is good news, but there is intra-year deferral scheduled, so in the amount of $592 million. Now what that means is that we are going to have approximately $12 million deferred. So the revenue that's promised us this year, they are looking at a deferral of $12 million. Better than 21, but still deferred. And if it all comes out the way that they're planning, we will not get that $12 million until July of 2014. Okay? So that, again, that's just a cash flow issue. It'll likely mean interfund borrowing, and you'll see more information on that in a second. But it's very unlikely at this moment that we'll need to do a tax and revenue anticipation note, or we'll need to borrow what they call a TRAN again. We had to do that last year, and we have to pay that back in September and October. Okay, so then we're going to get about $900,000 of that $50 million for student success and support for matric dollars. But we're going to use that money to reimburse 03, or we're going to use that money to shift 01 people who started out as 03 back to 03. So 01 is the unrestricted general fund that we operate our budget with. 03 is the restricted, and that's where all the grant money goes. So when we had all the difficulties, instead of laying off people and not providing services to students, we took the soft money funded people and we put them on the district's payroll. And they've been there since 7, 8, 8, 9, whenever we made those changes. Now, with this $900,000, we're going to move them back to soft money, thereby releasing $900,000 back to the 01 unrestricted, giving us the ability to spend those dollars on other things. Okay? So that's all a good thing. Now, number 6 is it's kind of important, because what it speaks to is what our 2013-14 credit and non-credit FTS targets are. Okay? And what's important about that is that our targets have actually been lowered by 928 for credit and 153 for non-credit. It's good news because we had a very, very aggressive target, and we still have a very aggressive target. The reason why it was lowered is because you know how you've been listening to me go on and on about 9-10 workload reduction restoration and then 11-12 workload reduction restoration. Well, the 910, they've already paid us for, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the 11, 12, no one's been paid for. It's a very large amount of FTS statewide. It's, I forget the number, it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 million dollars of annual funding for PCC, but it's a large number. What the state is now saying as of August 6th is, whereas before we told you had to make all of that up in 2013-14 and 2014-15, now we're telling you that you're going to make up 18.4% of it every year until 2017-18. The trick to, and by the way, this could change next year, but this is what they're telling us now. The trick to that is that it's kind of a use it or lose it. If you don't make back that 18.4% of your workload reduction from 11-12, then you lose that opportunity forever. Maybe you make up 10%, you leave 8% on the table. You make up 14%, you leave 4%, whatever. And what happens is that you lose the opportunity to make that up, but districts that exceed their 18.4%, they can get more. They can get as much more as they want, okay? So we've factored in a growth factor of 2% at least on the assumption that we're going to get our 18.4, and we want to be in a position to get even more back.
Don't you mean access?
Did I say growth? I'm sorry, access.
Yeah, I'm trying to go with it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. I do mean access. You're right. So, yeah, so that's important that we hit that we go for that 18.4%, and it's important that we exceed that a little bit if we possibly can. So, in plain English, not that any of this is, but the credit target is 20,482 FTS. The non-credit target is 1,200. The total target between the two is 21,682. It includes a base factor of 1973 plus the 18.4% plus that should be the access of 402 FTES. Okay, so our target on our little handy dandy chart, which is still not official because Ophelia needs to take one more look at it. This is a 6-year overview of credit courses, and the numbers I just talked about on the 13-14 line are basically right there. So we'll talk more about that.
Is this, sorry, to interrupt.
Sure.
Is this additive? So does that mean that next year that'll be another 18.4%?
Yes, ma'am. Until we get to the so-called 100%, which I think is 5 times or whatever it is, something like that. It's like 5 years.
Which is what we were talking about last time, hitting in 2 years.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. So that's good, and that's why it's better because the targets are pretty steep. So, and I kind of try to say that in that bolded paragraph beneath there. Very aggressive. The plan is designed to reach the targets, but also to fund the faculty, the facilities, and the operations needed in order to make it all work, etc. So that's key, and that's very, very, very important for our Board of Trustees to understand because we have an aggressive spending plan this year. Okay, so, and then we had to borrow. Now, this is important too for everybody to understand. You will recall the district also experienced a 9-10 workload reduction. Districts who reported adequate FTS in 12-13 on what's known as the P2 received a portion of additional $49 million in apportionment funds recently made available in the 12-13 state budget. That recently was July. And so districts were funded for their own 9-10 reduction accordingly, and that gave us the opportunity to get paid in full for 9-10. So based on summer 1 and borrowing from summer 2, we were able to capture the 9-10 workload reduction, restoration, and receive $1.1 million in funding on August 3rd. Okay? So 9-10 is cleaned up, but we had to borrow from 13-14 to make that happen. You have a question?
No, okay.
Okay. Okay, so then we talk about number 8, the Proposition 30 funds. We talk about number 9, what we're gonna get in terms of instructional equipment, what we're gonna get for scheduled maintenance, and the matching fund requirements. I don't speak about matching there. And then the EOPS money, the DSPS money, and then the adult ed money. Now, this is interesting going forward for 14-15. This is what the system is requesting going forward. First of all, we lost over 15% of purchasing power, or $930 million since this whole thing started. The Chancellor's Office, the Community College League of California, the CEOs, the Chief Business Officers, the lobbyists, my aunt Nancy, they're all actively promoting this thing called continuous appropriation that I mentioned earlier. This thing that guarantees us the money that we need to run our colleges. The odds of this happening are not great at the moment, but the Super Cola is picking up steam. So, the system for 14-15 is requesting $600 million allocated as follows. $240 million COLA, a 4.4% COLA. So that would be the definition of a super COLA, at least currently. More money for categoricals, student success, ESPS, EOPS, etc. An additional 2% access money in FTS, $110 million for that, and $100 million to buy down the deferral, which is still $591 million. Okay. In addition, they're going to request $200 million more for deferred maintenance. Now I'm going to go through the slides. There's a couple of things I want to say before I do the slides, and I won't. This will be less. We'll go through those quickly. There's a very, very, very good chance that in January, when the governor proposes his 14-15 budget, that there will be excess money. There will be excess RDA money, and there will be excess Prop 98 money. The governor or the state or whoever makes these decisions could decide to further pay down deferrals, the $590 million that's still owed to the system. They could decide to do one-time payments of whatever amount of money that they need to do. It could be, it should be good news. The challenge is we don't want to get too far out ahead of ourselves, because until you've got the money in the bank, or at least obligated to you, we have to be careful. The other thing we need to be careful of is that we have to be careful not to mix one-time money with ongoing apportionment money. So the RDA money is predicted to go another 3, 4, 5 years by the time they unwind that, but it's not permanent money. This year, to be honest with you, we're using it to help us get through the things we need to get through. Should we absolutely be doing so? Probably not. Has the board approved that? Not yet. By the way, they do that on September 4th, we hope. But it's being explained, but we're using it, and you'll see when we do the slides, we're using it to fund 900 more sections and a whole bunch of other things that you'll see here in a second.
For the purpose of building FTES?
For the purposes of building it.
And that's our best investment.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
You get absolutely, perfect, because it's all about getting getting our base where it needs to be and growing again. We've got to grow. And by the way, everybody around us is really trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, hot off of the, I'm going to digress for 30 seconds because I think this is really good news. Hot off of the enrollment management data press, as of today, we're 94% at capacity. And just to give you a comparison, last year at this time we had 19,263 head count. Now, as of 8/22, which I guess is today, 23,435 head count. So that's almost a 3,500 differential. Enrollments, last year we had 57,368. At the moment we have 73,068 enrollments. Total seats last year at this time, 61,140. Current total seats now, 77,929. We couldn't track wait lists last year, but because we're in a new banner environment, we can now. There are 9. Thank you. He's the
language.
APL guy.
We'll
That's
keep
right.
going with it. Access and Lancer.
Access,
and Lancer.
gotcha.
Manage.
Waitlisted, there are 9,299 students waitlisted right now. So now the enrollment management challenge, 9,299, is to find out who those, what those classes are. And then to sort out the wheat from the chaff, because sometimes students will double, they'll double enroll.
Mhm.
But still, if you do an analysis of what the 9299 are waiting for, that will give you a really good idea of the courses that we need to add. Okay, and then there are a total of 4,861 seats still available. The enrollments per student, which is really the gauge that tells you part-time to full-time, is heading in the right direction. We're 2.98 last year at this time. Now we're 3.2. So I asked the question, well, what exactly is it mathematically would be a full-time student? Is it 12 units? Is it, or is it 4? So is it 4 times 3? So it's 3.2, 3.12. Should it, if we get to 4, is that the nirvana of a full-time student?
It's
12
not enough to
units.
transfer.
Right. I'm talking about a load.
Right, but that's not enough load to transfer you in 4 semesters, so it
Right.
needs
So
to
it'd
be
be
higher.
15. It would be 15 in that case. Right. Yes, sir.
Oh, we go ahead and finish and then I.
Well, that's the point. The point is, the higher we can get that, the better off we're all going to be, because the more full-time students we have, and the greater revenue that they generate by way of proportion.
One little problem you might be running into is I've recently found out that students on wait list are only going to be notified through their new PCC email, and no other way. And a lot of them don't know they have the new email, so you might want to watch the numbers. And
Yeah.
Okay.
The we're doing a lot of just-in-time Lancer point management.
Okay.
Which, by the way, did I bring it with me? Did you guys see the cute card of Carol Curtis
Yes.
on there? Did you see that?
You should have gotten it in your
postcard?
mail. You'll get it in the next couple days.
It's very cute. Yeah.
You got it?
Okay, no, not.
Yeah.
This is just for.
Ask
But
Carol
that's
for
the
Lancer point
faculty,
training.
though.
Yeah.
I just
But
think
there's
that's
a
really
pink
cute.
one that went out mailed to
Students.
students
Pass
Yeah.
that around.
to notify them of how to log in, how to
Okay.
access
Yeah.
the
Okay.
email.
Yeah.
But I'll get you in a second, Jordan. But to get to your answer, in the just-in-time management, they're looking at exactly that.
Okay.
They're sending a hard mail correspondence to students,
Good.
basically saying, go to your PCC email, then link it to whatever you want to link it to. And we have the new PCC Gmail accounts. Jordan's about to die down there, so go ahead and tell
Oh,
everybody.
I'm not dying. But
Making faces.
I would like to say I was put on a wait list for a class, and I checked my schedule today, and I no longer had that wait list on my schedule. So I don't know if students are getting kicked off of wait lists. I don't know if that number has changed, but it was for a class that I direly needed to transfer. Now I have to go and figure out why I was kicked off of it.
Are you sure you weren't moved onto the permanent roster?
No, because it does not show up on my
Okay.
schedule.
So what Carol says is if you don't respond to your Go account, if you get an email on your Go account, you don't get it within a certain period of time, you'll get thrown off the wait list. You don't go to the bottom of the wait list, you disappear from the wait list.
Mhm.
But I
And,
have a
and there's a great.
It's Math 130.
Can you go to the PCC website?
Mhm. Hold on.
I see. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That and
I
Well-
just heard it today.
me as AS president should have known that. I had
Well,
no
and
idea.
so let me show you.
I didn't ask Carol. No, I didn't.
Let me show you a brand new important button
I'm trying to go.
that is on the PCC website, and we just renamed it so it's really clear. People need to know what students need to know.
Where is it called? I
It's
can't
on
put
the
it.
front
It's on the
page.
upper right hand corner of the yeah. You can put it up on the thing there. Yeah, upper left hand corner of the website.
You so fancy, girl.
You're good. You're good. I need all the help I can get. I get the good people.
Right.
She make Bob look good.
Uh-huh.
And
right.
that's a lot of making, I'll tell you.
Oh, I owe you a candy jar. I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
what
safe.
students need to know.
Okay, now
And
select it.
if that document called fall updates, if you keep through, it's got all the FAQs, it's got
Jordan,
everything
I'm
on
sorry,
it.
can you switch off the lights so we could view this a little
The
bit?
front light. Yeah.
There you go.
So there's FAQ information up there if you can scroll down it,
okay.
whatever, and there's all kinds of fees and tuition, financial aid, academic calendar, welcome date, check the fall schedule, et cetera, et cetera. So that answer should be there, Jordan. If you drop me a note that tells me what happened to
But
you,
it's not there.
Mhm.
That answer is not there.
where's the,
It says if you're on a wait list, check the schedule frequently. Well, you've fallen off the schedule. It
Okay.
doesn't say every hour check your Go
Okay.
email.
Mhm.
right, then we need to be more prescriptive. But there should be more information on that too, so I'm not sure what happened to that. But anyway, yeah, send me the note if you would, and I'll follow up on it, make sure we get it taken care of.
Yeah, I'm just thinking because if I'm pretty sure out of the 30,000 students that we've had, I'm not the only person that has not been notified that because now that I'm on a wait list and didn't respond to that Go email that I possibly have lost my transferability issue because I can't take my math class anymore. So if this is an issue that needs to be addressed, I mean, we need to address it
The
either.
first paragraph says go to your Go email.
We need to
Doesn't say
address it
how
now.
often
or
you're
or-
gonna fall
Who's
off
doing
the
that?
wait list.
Right.
Cynthia.
I thought it was just like how we used to do it, where you were on it until you went to the class and either you
Yeah.
got in or you didn't.
So Pinella's gonna address this right now with Dean Olivo and
Yeah, I'll
see if we can fix this.
We'll try and get the word out there, especially on AS.
Yeah. Okay.
And
that's
as
extremely
faculty,
important.
if maybe we can find out who was dropped off, because we're gonna get,
People crying.
and I think we
That
need
would
to
be
do
helpful.
something. I mean,
Yes.
we can't just say,
Right.
sorry,
It's a good point.
new
Um,
system,
And
you're
I'm
lost.
I'm
Right.
still getting student calls
And you know why?
because they're being forwarded to me.
Well, yeah, but how often does that happen though? Should be
Um,
happening a lot less.
I'm having a lot less, but
Can you
it's
change
not
your name?
helping the I give them Cynthia's number, but that doesn't mean she's gonna answer.
Yeah, you know the problem is the Carol Kaiser and the Carol Robinson.
It's not even close. It's spelled differently and
But
it's a
but
different
no,
last
but that's
name.
Carol. But anyway, so okay, so drop me another note and I'll check with the people up front about that. But they theoretically resolved that one
But
a
they're,
couple of weeks ago.
frantic. The students are frantic, and
Yeah.
I can't. All I can do is give them another number, which
Yeah.
doesn't help them.
Yeah, I thought we fixed that a month ago, but obviously
No.
it's still happening. Okay, well, people are people, I guess. So
And Bob,
Yeah.
have students' emails been changed? Say, for example, if I'm a student, if I registered as a student last year or this year, with this transition to Lancer Point, has my student email been changed?
Yes.
Or is it still?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta go to the new, Go.
And would I have been notified that my email?
Yes.
And how would I have been notified, through the mail?
now through the mail as well, but we did emails first, and then
Okay.
we did all kinds of
So,
other. But
through
there's
my
hard.
old email, I
Right,
was
but there's
told-
also been hard
Copies.
copies and
Postcard.
correspondence sent out, postcards and information sent out. And then they called Carol Robinson. and
Yes,
Carol
they
knows.
do. It's like
Yeah.
distance ed, fine, but Lancer Point, no, I can't help you.
So maybe if we can let the faculty know what's happening.
Yes, Pinella's going to do it. And by the way, one of the many hats that Pinella's wearing these days is with the Academy of Professional Learning, and they are up to their ears working on things like this.
So we'll make sure that Carol gets that into the training, and we'll ask Carol to adjust that language on the website.
I was at the training, that's how
And-
I know about
Yeah,
this.
and then I was gonna say, and make sure that Paul, because social science, you guys have your division meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
So make sure that Paul makes that announcement.
Okay.
In your division.
All right.
We just had our division meeting, and so.
Did you mention it?
No, we had
mentioned it?
we had somebody do the go through the whole process.
Oh, I've mentioned Paul has probably set that up too then.
So, just.
But
let
anyway,
Julie,
but those
if
are
you're
all,
there.
yeah. And if all things fail, drop a note to Cynthia, drop a note to me, Dr. Bell. We're all very responsive when it comes to this stuff. We really are. Because obviously we're trying to make this
yeah.
as painless as possible.
But if we can capture who those students were that were on the wait list that
Yes.
fell off, I'm just saying we
Yeah.
could serve them better, that's
yeah,
all.
yeah, and I hope we can.
No,
Okay.
I hope the sink or swim method works, but it's a difficult year to initiate that, of moving over to this new email. Yeah, I would have used their email that they give us upon enrollment, because I'm telling you, they get it. It goes right to their phones, because I've been doing it all summer long, blasting out the
Yeah.
information about these pre-assessment workshops.
Well,
I'm getting flooded.
Brac
Everyone's
is turning.
getting that info.
Brac is turning their Land Sport meeting, and we could have had this. It would have been helpful to have this brilliance about 6 months ago. So.
I was on vacation.
Anyway, we're gonna
Okay.
get through it. It's getting better. I appreciate everybody's time and effort.
Even brilliance has to vacation.
Yeah. Okay, so let's now look at the PowerPoint slides real quick. And so this is, again, this was in the board packet last night. And,
I'm ready.
yeah. And so Business College Services, there was a budget update. And the first thing we want to do is talk about the money itself. So we ended the year with a surplus of $2.5 million. We added that to the beginning balance that we had for the year, and so we had a total fund balance of $23 million. We then looked at all of our the local, state and local revenue as best we can define it after our August 6th meeting, and it included all those different categories of apportionment, property tax, RDA, which is the $3.5 million balance, plus what we'll get in 13-14, the education protection account money, and then the infamous enrollment fees, which is kind of an interesting thing because it's what they call a triple dip or triple flip or triple something or other. Even though we collect those enrollment fees, they deduct them from our apportionment. So it's not additional money to the district. It's just money that they just deduct from our apportionment. Anyway, then we have federal, and it's only $190,000, and typically what that is, that's the 8% on the O3 funded grants, with the indirect 8% that we get to keep. So that usually it's on the low end of 150, the high end of 250. It just moves depending on what's happening with the grants. Out-of-state tuition, which is primarily our international students, which, good news in Dr. Bell's report, our international student enrollment is up over 20% this year due to the incredible work of the faculty who are working on that project, as well as Cynthia and Brac and others. That's growing. Anyway, it's $10 million. And then we have lottery money, $2.6 million. And our total revenue is $120 million. When you add $120,333 with 23,246, we have total 01 unrestricted general funds available for, this word should be for appropriation. It says apportion, but it should be for appropriation, basically for spending. Okay, so there you go. Then this is the discussion of what they call the deficit factor, the revenue shortfall. So 12-13 ended up with a deficit factor of 4.3% or $4.6 million. And what that was is that system-wide, because of the RDA underfunding, a deficit factor occurred of 4.3%. It's a 4.3% IOU. In our case, it was $4.6 million. We got up 1.1 of that based upon a last-minute appropriation that we received on August 3rd. I referenced that earlier, but we're still owed $3.5 million. Then we get into the budget. This is the revenue and expenditures budget that's projected for 13 as of August 10th, when last we put this together. Under the... Yeah, can you just do this? Under the state funding, that's primarily apportionment dollars, and it is education protection account monies. Under local funding, that is RDA money and property tax money. Under other financing sources, it's a small amount of money. The little asterisk, it says it's equipment salvage is basically what that is. We salvage out equipment, we sell it, and generally it's a small amount of money. Then you'll get down and you see so our total income is $123.33. Then we get into the expenditures, and you start with academic salaries, which include faculty and certificated managers, classified and non-academic salaries. That includes the 4.72% raise and the step in column, which is what explains the increase that you see there this year, a little over $2 million, $2.2 million. The employee benefits on average went up 8%. It ranged from 3% to 12% or whatever the numbers was, and it ended up at 8%. Yes, sir.
From 7 to 9, so the average.
7 to 9, so the average was 8% for what's called the health, welfare, and benefits packages. Supplies and materials. We were very good last year with our spending, but we decided that we would take that number back up from what was budgeted to what we were projecting, so that's why that's increased. Other operating expense and services, so exactly what is that? We've had a lot of conversation about the Rosemead site that we're going to be opening, and the primary purpose of the Rosemead site is to help us with those incredibly aggressive FTS targets and goals. Anyway, there's money associated with opening that up. And then you might recall the board approved some $661,000 in additional appropriations for active shooter and emergency preparedness planning. And wasn't that DeKalb thing amazing?
The what?
The thing in DeKalb, Georgia yesterday, the elementary school and the active shooter. Did a lot of people haven't heard about that?
No,
Did you
I
hear
haven't
about
heard
that?
that.
This is amazing. Excuse me for
Yeah.
digressing. A guy walks into an elementary school of 600 kids with an AK-47, and he walks into the front office, and there's a woman there, a clerical person, and she talks him off the ledge for about 15 minutes. I was 6 o'clock this morning on CNN. I was stuck to the tube. They played the whole
It's
thing.
amazing.
Yeah.
What? And she, hero. She defines the word hero.
Right.
Wow.
It was just an amazing thing. So she had presence of mind. She knew what to do. The 911 operators. I mean, she was just an amazing woman. But anyway, the point is, I'm so happy that we've got our active shooter posters up and our plan going and what have you, because and there's more to come. But
So when do we see the plan?
the active shooter stuff is being rolled out now. The Clery report is just about finished. The thumb locks are being installed in all the classrooms. I mean, we've hired some additional people. We're increasing staffing in psych services. We're bringing on at least one more counseling psychologist and some additional staff, because the investment is not only in the what do you do preventative, but well, what do you do when it happens, but how do you identify it? How do you help your psychologist? Do you know exactly what I'm talking about? So we're beefing up those services as well. $661,000, but you will see a plan soon, very soon, as far as that's concerned. Okay, so that's where those additional.
Although if you're
monies
worried
are.
about some of the trainings, CPART is going to, the emergency respondents team on campus is going to be doing regular trainings throughout the year. So if you're worried about the actual practical skills about how to talk people off the ledge, maybe not the financial planning that he was just referencing,
Right.
like the on the ground
Yeah.
kind of moment,
Let
then
me
that's
get
going
my
to be.
budget out here.
Right, like, well, if it's thick enough, you'll be fine,
So
right?
CPART stands for Crisis Prevention and Response Team,
Right.
and CPART is run by Kent Yamauchi and Joe Bushko and Don Yoder and Steve Matchin and some of our folks, and Scott Thayer, and they get together usually every 2 or 3 weeks, and they go through all of the issues that have bubbled up to the surface.
And then there's
And then we
gonna
manage
there's
those.
like a certificate training too, and one of the things that they're recommending is one person from every area in your area get at least one person is trained in some of this. So for us, we're lucky it's our secretary, but you guys may want to have a conversation in your department or division.
And we have a new sergeant, Sergeant Bill Abernathy, and Bill comes to us with 33 years of experience, but his whole role is administration and emergency preparedness and oversight and operations. So he'll be overseeing a lot of this. So we're working to get our ship in order there. Okay, equipment purchase, scheduled maintenance and instructional equipment match, and then Lancer Point interest. And what that means is we did a lease purchase on elements of Lancer Point, and so there's an interest fee of about $230,000 a year or something like that. Okay, so that's what's in that line item for other outgo.
So I just got an update from Cynthia, if it's okay to
Yes,
go back
please.
for a second. So the FAQ is getting loaded today. So that is the newly
yeah.
implemented information. I don't know if you guys know, counseling has been doing extended hours this week to accommodate all the folks. So she just hasn't had a chance, but she said it's happening today.
Yeah, and we're beefing up some things in that office as well, so that's good to know. And the web office. Okay, scheduled maintenance, we just talked about that. Okay, so then what you're going to see is that we're 4.2 million under, in other words, we're spending 4 million more than we are bringing in. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're taking money out of the fund balance. Okay, so the note says 4.3 million comes from fund balance contingency reserve. This leaves $12,050,000 in district reserves and $6.9 million in operating contingencies, both actions consistent with past district practice. The $12 million represents 9.5% of our budget. State law requires 5%, and the contingency represents a little over 4%, 4.5%. So overall, our reserves / contingency are 14%, which is healthy and fine. Okay, so turning the page, this is just the fund balance information, and Marie was here. She really beats me up on the term modified cash basis. And that's what the first asterisk refers to. Revenue and other financial resources are recognized when they become measurable, and what that means is obligated, when they become collectible. There's a 60 to 90 day period that the auditors say you can't claim it unless you can collect it, unless you know it's there. So the long and the short of it is, as of the end of the year, in our various budgets, these were our ending fund balances. It's important to note that in the capital outlay Fund 41, the second asterisk refers to $6.1 million of money that we actually have to reserve, because that's the principal amount tied to the Lancer Point acquisition, and so we have to reserve that money. We have to reserve that because we basically said we're going to keep that money, use it for interfund borrowing to help us through the rough times, what have you, which is why we did it last year. But we can't fool ourselves and think that we actually have $12.3 million in that fund. We really only have $5 or $6 million, whatever that number is. Okay. Now, if you turn to the next page, it just shows the rest of the funds and what we have. So the budget is tied to the 01 general fund. Go back one, please. Okay, that's our budget. That's what we're talking about. The rest of these, and then the 03 restricted, that's the grant monies. The rest of these are other funds that the district has. And when we need to do interfund borrowing, we can borrow from Fund 29, we can borrow from Fund 41, we can borrow from 43, and 63, and 64. That's what we can borrow from. Sounds like we're at Vegas, right? Or playing roulette.
Right.
But that's where the interfund borrowing comes from, these other sources of monies that the district has. Next one. Okay, so now this is just kind of a quick thing. I mentioned earlier that they're doing 13, 14 deferrals again to the college. The system-wide is $592 million. Come February, March, April, May, June, they are holding those amounts of monies back from being paid out. So in our case, $12 million of cash flow is impacted February through June. And then in July of 14, they're going to pay the whole $592 back, and we're going to get a check for $12 million. At least that's what they tell us now. And then we're almost done. Total appropriations. I want you to see that there's a total appropriations increase between 12-13 and 13-14 of over $13 million. So we're spending $13 million more. The question is, where is that $13 million going? Turn page. The increment. People sometimes call this the increment. What are you doing with your increment? Well, at least $12.3 million of the increment is going to these 17 items. 900 course sections. We're spending more on the accreditation. We're going to be spending some money on doing policy and procedure updates in the institutional effectiveness area, also part of the accreditation process. SASI augmentation in support of academic senate goals and needs. The PCC Rosemead site. There's an election coming up. In good times, we always budget for the board election. We haven't in recent years because the times have been good. This year we have to because we've got 4 of our seats up, and only one being actually contested, I believe, at the moment. But there's costs. We had to put money in the budget for that. The raises, the HWB, the Welcome Day, and all the kickoff week events, which is actually a 3-week period of time. Staff positions that we need to build back. We have increases in our insurance. We have all the professional development that we've been doing this summer, and other things. The Faculty Development Institute that Penella and Valerie and Sheila are leading. The Lancer Point faculty training that Carol's engaged in, and others, I expect. Human resources compliance training, which is just the stuff we all have to do. And then the MOU with Management Association provided them some funds to support things that they want to support for their managers, or for their, I want to call them members, but they're not members, whatever they are. And then the district match money that we need, the emergency preparedness thing, which I talked about, the branding study, which was committed to last year to help the college brand itself going forward. We have incurred upwards of $600,000 a year of additional maintenance agreement funds, and last but not least, the Lancer Point interest. Yes, sir.
The SASE augmentation for the academic senate, can you tell me when those funds might be available?
Well, there's a little bit of a discussion between the academic senate and Dr. Bell's office and Dr. Rocha, and those of you who were at the board meeting last night heard some of that. And the answer to that question is, I think all they're doing is working. All they're doing. Dr. Bell is trying to get a process in place. The SASI dollars that we have right now, there's a very detailed process that people go through in order to be allocated the funds, in order to assess the projects, what have you. And what Dr. Bell is trying to do is work with the academic senate to come up with the parameters by which that money will be allocated. We just can't, on anybody, we just can't give you X dollars and say do what you need to do. And I don't think those are going to be egregious or difficult. I think they just need to be set up. But the money's in the budget.
Okay.
Okay. The last slide is probably the most important slide and kind of the most Maalox moment kind of a slide. From the Chancellor's office in something called the Fiscal Accountability Group or something, FACT or whatever it is, tells us that your expense to income ratio should be 85, 86%. And that when you're getting into 89, 90, 91%, 92%, that's where it gets a little dicey. For a variety of reasons, we were at 90.22 last year. We're a little bit over that this year, and it's just too high. It's structurally too high. Okay. Now, the good news is on the expense side, we're controlling it. You know, we're doing better. We were down in 12-13. We're projecting even less in 13-14, and that's good news. But we've been very, very generous with raises and health and welfare and what have you here. I sat in a meeting with probably 7 or 8 other CBOs from Santa Monica, a couple of LA District, Riverside, North Orange County, South Orange County, South Orange County, and was it, who's the other one? Rancho, I guess. Rancho. And what are you doing? These are great meetings. You learn a lot. You know, you qubits, you get changed. So what did you guys do for raises? None. PCC, 4.79%. They looked at me like, really? I said, yeah, we hadn't had raises since 7-8, so we decided we were gonna take care of it this year. So what'd you do in your health and welfare and benefits? Paid an additional 8%. Really? And then they said, what's your reserves? And I told them, and they said, okay, well that's a little bit better. But they said, you're really counting on the Prop 98 and the continuous and the improved and the super cola. I said, well, I'm not sure what we're counting on. We just thought that we thought this was important to do this year for all kinds of reasons, and we left it at that. But the point is that that has a significant impact on why that ratio is what it is this year, why it's not a little bit better. And the other thing, of course, is the added sections. The Rosemead thing. We have to sort of invest in our future in order to get to where John was saying before, to secure that base, capture that growth, and continue. So it's investment. Our safety net is our reserve, which is why we really have to protect it. And that's what we did. So, and that's what the board did, so that's what we continue to do. Now, at this point, we're going to take questions. Or Joe, you want to talk about the priority list thing?
Yeah, just 2 minutes. if
Yeah,
I can.
sure.
So this is the exercise that we went through last month in July, where we said if we have additional funds, what would Brac recommend that we start with, and where would we end up? So originally we had what is showing here as priority number 1. As priority number 1 was actually 3 separate, but through the conversation that we had, we thought priority number 1 should be additional personnel, professional development, and dollars reserved for fiscal salary comparative study. So if additional funding comes into the district, this would be the list that we would go to, this would be the first item that we'd take up and have a conversation about. Then we would go on to, and then we tried to tie a dollar amount to these things based on some historical information. It's nothing set in stone, but it's, I feel, a very good estimate.
And, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, earlier I talked about additional Prop 98 monies. I talked about maybe, some significant payments coming in January, February, March as a result of additional money out there. That's when I think we would turn back to this list and keep talking.
Right. So just quickly to go through, item number 2, or the priority number 2, would be student employment fund. 3 would be program improvement funds. 4 would be student access and success initiative, the cross-cultural center, the 24-hour center and library lounge, and then finally the property for dorms. There were some things that were taken out of the list that you guys prioritized because as we were thinking about the budget, we realized that there were things that we already took care of. So Bob mentioned the branding. It was approved last fiscal year. It's in the budget for this fiscal year. So that came out of the priorities. The Rosemead site, we saw that it's going to impact the percentage of income and compensation. Makes sense to move forward to provide more access, increase the growth for the FTES. It was something that made sense and we had to do. And then instructional equipment, there was already a bottom line or a line item in the budget for instructional equipment, so we took it out of being a dual request to make it one request, and it became part of the fixed budget. Okay? So just wanted to show you guys what it is that we talked about and the priority that you came up with and how we will move forward if some additional funding comes in. Okay? So we will revisit this hopefully in the next few months. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so questions, comments?
Your last item here that mentions that our compensation is a little higher than we like it in regards to the overall.
Well, not the compensation, the percentage of expense to income.
Yes, okay. What kinds of things can we do to bring that to a place that you would find more beneficial?
Well, one of the things, for example, that comes to mind is the Prop 39, the energy efficiency projects. Anything that can reduce our utility bills is going to help us, as an example. The revenue enhancement strategies, like more out-of-state students, the international students. So, in other words, in order to get that, either more revenue or less expense. So, what we're trying to do, what the college is trying to do, is attack it on both ends. And try to
be clear, it's always going to be high, right?
Yes.
So it's always going to be around between 80 and 85%, right?
No, it's always going to be around 85 to 87%.
But they don't want you to go below that, but over 90 is like warning signs.
Yeah.
Like that's like a symptom of an unhealthy.
And exactly, and as long as you've got reserves to deal with it, they're less. This is where San Francisco got itself, one of the ways in which San Francisco got itself in trouble. But I think they got up to 92, 93%.
They were at 93.
They were really, really up there.
I'm just happy to hear that the administration's solutions are not based on eliminating positions, but rather the two things you mentioned.
Yeah. We, if anything, we've added faculty. We've added managers where we've had to, and we're in the process now of adding back classified staff. We've added oh golly, I don't know the exact number, but probably 7, 8, 9 classified positions at least in the last
Is
few
that
months.
classified management or just,
Both classified positions, the analysts, the
but most of them are
Custodian.
classified management.
I'm on a custodian hiring committee. There might be two.
You're probably right, but you're going to see more classified positions going forward. The 3 IT people are classified, for example. The HR analyst we just hired is I think it's an issue CFT, but maybe not.
A&R, anybody over there? I know they're on
Admissions and records. We're working through that right now.
the LAC too.
Yeah.
And how many staff? I mean, how many faculty?
Our FFON, we hired 9 new faculty in 12-13 to start 13-14. That took our full-time faculty number to roughly 380, 85, 386.
And then there are a couple of
Our,
1-year temps.
and then on top of that, we've got probably 5 or 6 one-year temps.
I thought it was about 6.
Yeah, we've got at least 6 one-year temps on top of that. The interesting thing about the full-time faculty obligation number is that it has dropped through the roof, which can only be a chancellor's office mistake, because in that August 6th meeting, when they handed out the full-time faculty obligation number document, we all looked at it, and I looked around the room, and everybody had a look of shock, but nobody really wanted to ask the question because the FFON had dropped precipitously for each district.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be right, is what it boils down to. But our number right now is 378. We're 10 beyond the maximum that we need for that. The classified staff, from pre-CERP levels until now, if I had these numbers correct, Joe, in my mind, we had 777, give or take, full-time faculty, staff, managers, and in today we have 738 full-time faculty, staff, and managers. The faculty numbers are almost exactly the same now, so we've gotten the faculty back up to where it was. The managers are actually up by 3, I think, or something like that. But the classified staff is down by 35 or so, 35 or 40. Yeah. So that's the area that we need to work on, and I think we are.
And that interim positioning of some managers, does that mean that those positions will be changed, eliminated, or they're still just up in the air? Because
You talking about the reorg stuff, the organization?
yeah, I'm talking about interim managers. As
Oh, you mean the
those positions?
yes.
Is the plan to eliminate those, or we just don't know? We're still looking at it.
Dr. Bell, Dr. Rocha, and I are still finalizing. Things are pretty well set on our side, the Business and College Services side, and they're pretty well set in the President's office side
Right.
now. Dr. Bell is like within nanoseconds away from solidifying was happening in his area.
In
That's true.
connection to this reorg, right?
In connection to the
Yeah.
reorg,
Okay.
yes, right. Yeah, so we just need to get it done.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Faculty that are interim, are they counted as faculty?
In the FFON?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Although there is a way, there's the A and the B way of computing this.
Mhm.
The A way is the straight numbers. The B way is a mathematical machination of full-time temps,
Mhm.
counselors, librarians, and everything else to get to it. And the issue is for those colleges that are not like we are, which has really done, really worked hard to maintain a good solid full-time faculty, they allow them to sort of throw everything in the kitchen sink into this calculation to try to get to it, because for every full-time faculty you don't have, this is 3 years old, maybe 4 or 5 years old, there used to be a fine of like $65,000. for every person that you missed your FFON number obligation, they would charge you $65,000 per head. So obviously, everybody wanted to avoid that. But I think the statewide board of governors has waived that for the last several years at least because of the fiscal crisis.
But these aren't full-time faculty teaching full-time in the classroom, right? I mean, they're release time, they're manager faculty.
They're on the books as academic, not management, because management is a different category. Full-time faculty obligation number is faculty, including librarians, including counselors, but faculty. Now, they may be on, some of them may be on release time, and we have a large number on release time on this campus, but they're not management. The management, the deans, the certificated management people are not part of the full-time faculty obligation number.
Can we anticipate any more I mean, how we've had a number of people retiring en masse over the last few years. I'm just wondering how that might impact.
Well,
I know how do you predict that, right?
Well,
Yeah.
HR just did a survey of looking at the population, and I may be misquoting because it was in a casual conversation, so please don't. I don't know if Terry would look at it, but it was of our entire employee pool. It was between like 60 and 70% of our entire pool, not just faculty, I want to be clear, is a 55 and over.
Yeah, we are going to
we're an aging campus.
hit that wall in the next 5 to 10 years, big time.
Which is not uncommon across the state of California right now. As you know, like the police are having a massive shortage of hiring, right? Like we're seeing this in other places.
Yeah,
too.
there's a big chunk of us in our 50s, or late 50s and 60s, but then faculty in particular, many of them tend to hang on for a long time, but even so.
I know Classified Senate was looking into, if there was a retirement incentive, I think there'd be a lot more classified retire.
Well, that's what we heard in the faculty side too, that if there had been an incentive this year, that
Right.
we would have lost easily 2 people per division.
I think that's kind of what a veiled question was. Is there an incentive out there?
Well,
Right.
at the moment, the supplemental early retirement program has gone through 3 rounds basically, and it's not anything that's on the table right now. It doesn't mean that it can't come back on the table. It doesn't mean that we can't suggest it as a means of doing something. It doesn't mean at a negotiating table it'll come up. But again, if we were basically those SERPs basically incentivized 110, 112, 115 people, give or take, to leave the college over those three terms. And one of the reasons why you do SERPs is to make room for younger people who've got 30 years of their career left in front of them. That doesn't mean, and I don't mean to be ageism here or imply anything, because certainly we've hired staff and faculty who are older, but so you do it to kind of bring in the new blood, whatever that blood is, and you do it to save money because the new people come in at a lower rate than the people who leave usually. Top of the scale. He's looking at me like I said something wrong again, didn't I, Joe? He's looking at me like
That's
you
not
can't
what they
take
say
me
at the
anywhere.
negotiating table,
You
but
can't
anyway.
take me anywhere. But anyway, we're so hopefully we'll get that solved too. Okay. Yeah, and I've got another meeting in 15 minutes, so I think I've said much more than enough. Questions, comments?
How close are you to the December proposed use of Prop 30 funds?
In terms of how did that all lay out?
I mean, it says 400,000 for SASE grants, online course development, professional development. I mean, are we
Well, that
staying
was
true to this or not?
I think for the most part we've stayed pretty true. That was 12-13 allocations.
Yes.
So I think
This
for
came
the
out 12-12.
yeah. So they said that was basically got the additional Prop 30 monies in 12-13,
Okay.
and for the most part we stayed pretty true to that, I believe.
Right, and just to clarify what we got on this is what we're looking at, Joe, for spring is when we would probably expect to have discussions regarding these things again.
Maybe sooner.
Yeah, we can probably bring it back if there's a meeting in January, but this is what would happen if there were additional funds to the district.
Okay.
So we can bring it back periodically just to check
Yeah.
in on it and have the conversation.
Yeah.
Bob, your last form shows the COLA values. Did all of that go into benefits rather than salaries?
COLA. So the way that the district allocated COLA this time around is 50% went to salary increases and 50% went to other operating expenses, including health, welfare, benefit, utilities, gas, water, whatever. It's a model that many districts like San Diego, for example, have chosen. There used to be something called the total compensation model, TCM, right, guys?
Yeah.
That Peter Hardash and Jim Kossler came up with. I was in a meeting. You know, Peter is now my counterpart. Life is funny, but Peter is now my colleague, if you will, as a CBO. And I said to him, I said, Peter, we would have used your TCM if anybody could have figured it out. Because we looked at. He says, "Oh, you should have called me." I said, "No, I'm glad we saved the 20 cents." Because the way it was before is we never ever really used the full COLA. We had this thing called the TCM, which deducted other expenses off of it. Now, whether or not it came down to 50% or not, I don't know. But that's kind of the way it was done in the past. Okay. So, what's our next meeting? Oh, let me just quickly say that the other things that are in here, without going through them at all, this controller releases July cash update. I always think this is a fascinating thing. It kind of tells you how the state's cash situation is going, which tells us how our cash situation will go. And then this is just something that talks about that 15% and how much we've lost and when we lost it, which is why they're looking at that super COLA to try to make up the difference. And then the other thing is, did you bring in Dr. Bell's?
Oh no, I was going to email that to everybody.
Okay, so Dr. Bell and I both do a this month in report for his area, and I do one for my area. And in his this month, he talks about how well we're doing on the enrollment side. He talks about the international education, and then I talked about some of the things that we're accomplishing in the business and college services side. So we'll send that to you.
Yeah, I'll email
But it's
everybody
also
all
up
the
on the
handouts.
website and everything. Okay, so what's our next meeting? Our next meeting is September 26th. And by then we'll have another update, and we'll kind of keep going from there, and we'll get back into the planning thing a little bit more probably and do some stuff. Okay?
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
You bet.